All right, my people of faith, let's take another walk. We're going to discuss about pornography and not just pornography itself, but we're going to talk about how to separate from the addiction, how to walk away from the stronghold or the attraction to pornography. Okay? We're going to go through a few steps. And if I were to briefly say about myself, I was a person who was addicted to pornography for over 20 something years. And the measures or the amount of ways that I went out to get the pornography. Now, this is during a time when it wasn't really like on the internet. And don't get me wrong, it went from the early stages of watching pornography, videos and magazines, to actually to the modern day where it was on the internet. So, but anyway, over 20 years of pornography. So I'm not going. This video is not going to address the person who doesn't see the point in deliverance from pornography, or even see that there's nothing wrong with pornography. This is not a video to convince you that pornography is wrong or right or whatever. This is a video for that individual who wants to go higher, or they see something more than watching pornography. However, there is an attachment to it. They try to walk away from it, but they can't seem to get away from it. It's like something pulls them back in. They go so far out and it pulls them back in. This video is for that individual. So I'm going to give a couple tips, not tips, but a couple steps. First and foremost, pornography itself is dark magic. Let's start with that. Pornography itself is dark magic, and what I mean by dark magic, is witchcraft, is sorcery, it's a can I say the word cantation? It's an image maker that casts a spell to the soul and actually cripples the soul of its development. It's almost to say, not almost, I'm going to say it, nothing good comes from pornography. Nothing good comes from watching pornography. Nothing good. The individual that's involved with it gets destroyed. The person who's watching it gets destroyed. The individual who watches it gets destroyed from from a spiritual perspective. The person who's actually doing the act, they get destroyed spiritually as well as physically. Nothing good comes from it. And even the person who's incorporated the business, they get destroyed by the love of money. We won't touch that, but anyway, we're gonna talk about a couple steps. How? Okay, it depends on how long the seed of pornography, or how long the individual have been watching pornography, can determine the density, or determine the how strong the attachment can be. Okay, if a person watched it for a day or a week or whatever, they could break free from that just like that and never go back to it. A person who have been watching it for years, they're not just it's not just an addiction now, it's a lifestyle. Okay, so now they have to change the lifestyle. Okay, if you were planting a flower, you would dig a hole and you would get the flower and you would plant it, right? So if you took out that flower, that hole is there. So either you're going to cover up the hole or you're going to replace the hole with something else. So this is what we have to do with pornography. Either you're going to cover the hole, which means make it whole like it never existed, or you're going to put something there in the place of it. Okay? So once if we were to address to make it whole, that we're dealing with the soul, the mind, the will, the emotion, intellect, and imagination. All those components is what's taken in the spell or the thoughts, the images that comes out of pornography. Your soul is like a transfer. That's why it's a spell. It goes from the actual what you see with your eyes, goes through your eye, go into your soul, your mind, your will, your emotion, your intellect, and imagination. You're gonna act it out. You're gonna create it. You're gonna respond to it. You're gonna let's see. You're gonna think about it. It's gonna be a spell cover. It's gonna be a dark cloud over your soul. Now, personally, I can function with that. It's not about function at this point. Like I said, I'm talking to the person who wants to be set free from it, not a person who wants to tolerate it. I'm talking about a person who wants to set free because they see something greater for them. Now, if a person is watching pornography, is literally like walking around with $1 million in your pocket, but you have a hole in your pocket. So, what pornography does, you are a blessed individual because God made you in his image and likeness. First thing first. God created you just like him. I'm not talking about physical stature. I'm talking about as a spirit. Inside you, there's love, power, and a sound mind, which means the mind that is sober, a mind that is solidified. It is not divided. It's not broken. This one, God made us this way. Now, what pornography wants to do is to get inside that spirit and to destroy the soul, because if the soul is connected to what God placed inside of us, you are considered perfect. You don't need anything else. All you have the presence of the Lord with you, the presence of God with you. That is the best power you can ever have. This is what we would call the power of love. Now, the purpose of pornography is to cast a spell over the soul to separate us from the spirit of love. Like I said, pornography is like walking around with $1 million, but you have a hole in your pocket. On one level, it does something to temporarily satisfy you, but at the same time, it destroys you equally as well. So, like I said, my testimony, I was the person who watched it over 20 something years. And I went through different variations of ways to watch it, to get it. You talking about being a young kid watching it, and you have to go to the adult store, and where the adult store is in the is a video store, not adult store, but a video store, a regular video store, and the adult section is in the back, where they always have like it would be separated or closed off from the rest of the movies, and so rest of the movie selections. But it will always have like a a door that it seemed to be discreet, but it always make like the most notable noises to let everybody know that this individual is fit to go into this area. So it's like everybody look, there's a pervert right there by the go into the section. But anyway, okay, so that's what I had to go through the process of that to get to the point where you could digitally watch it on the internet, whatever. That's nothing. Anyway, the point of what I'm saying is I had to go through a lot of mental like perspectives to get this addiction. So a person now who can go on their phone and they accidentally Google something and it could pop up. So you really don't have to go through anything, go through a maze or go through some kind of strategic, calculated way to get the pornography. Pornography comes to you. This is how alarming that it is. This is the same thing that goes with anything that gives off an hallucinogen, or I won't say hallucinogen. Anything that gives off an illusion that's away from love is out to destroy you. It's out to kill, steal, and destroy you. And what I mean kill, steal, and destroy you, it means it's coming for the soul. If your mind, will, emotion, intellect, and imagination is unhealthy, and what I mean unhealthy, if none of those components or none of those attributes is seated inside love, you are in trouble, because everything else you're going to be a slave to. And everything outside of love, you're going to be a slave to. Love is the only presence that always gives up itself for you, right? Love is always more in the act of itself than anything else. Everything that comes with God comes out of love. If you talk about faith, if you talk about, excuse me, if you talk about kindness, if you talk about um, patience, if anything that we will say like these what attributes what God would like for you to have, they all come through love. Okay, so pornography is designed to cast a spell to the soul, to separate the soul from God's love. You were made in God's likeness and image, and in that likeness and image, God creating you love, power, and a sound mind. So if the spell can get inside the soul, it's going to, that sound mind, that mind that is considered perfect, is going to be confused. It's going to be torn between good and evil, and it's going to be a constant battle in your mind. Should you shouldn't do this, or if I do this, whatever, the curse and the blessing is always going to be attached to it, right? So the power that you can actually have to demonstrate authority on the earth, now it becomes not a power, it becomes like a cursing, so to speak, where you draw the dark forces to you, versus being the power that casts out or get rid of dark forces. Now you're like a magnet to dark forces, and um, and the love, like I said, the love itself is the most powerful presence there is, and God created us in this. So the spirit of pornography wants to cast a spell to root all this, root us, our soul, mind, will, emotion, intellect, and imagination away from it. So let's talk about taking a first step. Okay, the first step is we have a hole that we want to fill where the pornography was, or we're going to actually replace the hole with something of good. One or two ways how you want to do it. Let's start off with covering the hole. All right, making the hole solid again, or making the soul solid again. First thing first, it requires for you to, if pornography was a heavy influence in your life, then something that has to be more powerful than that has to be a heavily or a heavy influence. So let's talk about the subject of love. All right, we briefly just did, but let's go a little bit further. Love is the most powerful existence there is. So if I'm going to give up pornography, I'm giving up pornography because I see something greater than pornography. Okay? If I'm going to give up drinking, it's because I see something greater than drinking. If I give up anything that's going to potentially cause me any trouble, I'm going to do it to go to something that's not going to cause me any trouble. So it's like leaving a world of torment to a world of peace. That's what love is. It's leaving a world of torment to a world of peace. That means whatever that you do, you will always have peace out of it. That's what love does to the soul. No matter if you work in a 12-hour shift, whatever, no matter what you're doing, if your job is to scrub floors, it wouldn't bother you because you have a peace in your soul. And for the most cases, while we don't inherit the blessing or we don't fulfill our purpose, and this is why we turn to such addictions, is because the soul is destroyed, is broken, and that could come through the act of an early age. For some who have been in unfortunate situations, you know, from sexual acts, abusive acts, or it could be verbally, it could be physically, it could be sexually, it could be any version of abuse to the soul that caused the soul to be broken. So it's easy when the soul is broken. It's like having a dirt that's already have holes in it. So a weed can easily just be planted in there and grow. And that's what pornography is. It's a weed. It's a it's a it's a it's something that's going to strangle you. It's nowhere. It will nowhere near in any form or way. It will help you for your purpose. Remember, God, you're made in God's likeness and image, and you were brought to the earth for a purpose. And that purpose wasn't to have your soul to be destroyed. It was meant for you to that purpose that's inside of you, which is God that's inside of you, is to lead you to remove the works of Satan off the earth. So, in other words, God didn't deliver me from pornography for me just to be casual. I'm delivered from pornography. Now I have a power to help people be delivered from pornography, which means my job now is to shove off the enemy. Before, when I was in pornography, my job was to draw the works of the enemy to me. Of course, I don't want that. It's automatic. It's a magnet. So, step one in filling this hole, or covering up the hole to make it whole again, is to let's get into the Word of God, or let's get into. I believe this is my personal avenue. I believe Jesus himself was the only one that was going to be able to separate me from pornography. Not no therapist, not prayer itself, but prayer. I mean, don't get me wrong. A person could pray for you, but I had people to pray for me, and nothing happened. So it had to be a personal, relationship type deal, a personal dedication, a personal invitation of Jesus. Now this is where it comes great, because this shows you how powerful Jesus really is, and what he did, what the stories that we heard about what he did actually can come to life in this day. Now, the stories that we heard about Jesus did, what he did was over 2,000 years ago. But if it's over 2,000 years ago and the impact and power of it can affect you now in the present state which you're in, that shows a massive amount of power that is spiritual, which is the whole point of the spell of pornography. Pornography casts a spell over the soul, and Jesus came to break that spell if we will allow him to. So I wanted something more than pornography, because I will always be left empty. I get the temporary sensation, and it will go away, and I will feel bad. And that only is going to draw me in to do it again. It's a trick. It's a deceptional. It's a web of lies that if you do it again, it will sustain longer. The sensation will sustain longer, but it actually goes away faster. So I wanted love. Okay. So what Jesus did was took me through the reason why pornography got there in the first place. How pornography got there in the first place. If you're going to make if the soul is going to be addressed to be whole, you're going to have to allow Jesus to walk you through your life. And you don't have to be afraid of going and see things that may have been buried, that may have been, pushed aside in the back of your mind that you don't want to discuss. Jesus will personally grab you by the hand and walk you through your life. And he will have a flashlight. This flashlight is called truth. And he will shine this light on every spot of your soul that is not connecting you to love. Because his mission is to clean out all the filth so you can see how valuable and truly loved you truly are. All right? Okay. So if at a young age something happened to you, it could be whatever that happened. So there's a disconnect to love, because whatever happened to you is in violation to your innocence. Your innocence is your love, right? So something came and tried to take away, or possibly took away that connection to love. So it's easy for something like pornography to come in and try to fill that gap, or drinking, or eating, or any kind of addiction, anything, just about everything of evil can be addictive. That's the sole purpose of it. Okay, so I had to make a decision. I asked Jesus to show me that He's Lord in my life. Now, and particularly in this area, show me that you're Lord, because I will go away from it. I go back, go away, come back, go away, come back. It's like it's like something that just doesn't go away. It won't die. So I said, for you to be Lord in my life, you will have to get rid of this. I mean, permanently. So the first step when we started to learn first step that he introduced me to was we went through the soul and we started seeing the areas where the the crack in the soul start to break down the foundation, where there was cracks in the foundation of the soul. And I saw a lot of areas in my life where I hated myself. And that was based upon the innocence being taken from me, you know. So me being disconnected from love at an early age, it showed like so many ways how I just despise myself. Okay? So Jesus said, let's go in here and clean up. Let's start with this. Look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. You can say your first name. My case is James, so I will say, James, I love you. Now it's strange at first, especially if you're not used to it or you haven't done it before. It's strange because it doesn't make any sense. I said, James, I love you. So it became a thing that he said, well, let's do it for 7 days. So I did it for 7 days. Okay. Now we go from there and we're doing that every day, whatever. And he said, okay, let's do something else. Let's go pick up trash throughout the neighborhood. Now, the person said, what does that have to do with pornography? Okay. Now, I'm picking up trash throughout the neighborhood and I'm telling myself I love myself. What those two things did was I was installing love and at the same time humbling myself. Okay. How this works. What humility would like to do is humility would like to introduce us to love. But if there's a form of fear there, there's not a form of fear. There's fear there that came through hurt more than likely. So through this hurt, pride is developed because you go into this self defense mechanism where you're protecting yourself from being hurt or something being taken from you again. So now you develop like this pride of defense that has to come down. For love to truly enter in, or for love to be perfected inside the soul, it will have to cover the soul so much that you can let your foot off the gas or off the brake, and God will catch you. But that trust has to be built, because more likely that love was taken away. Remember that the love that's inside of us is God Himself. So we have an instant attachment to God. We have an instant trust to God. It's instant because we're one and the same. We're connected. But through the unfortunate situation, it disconnected us. So now we have to be reconnected. That's why for the most case, for a lot of people, He gave us, if they receive Jesus, Jesus reconnects us to this love. So I go around picking up trash and all that good stuff because it's humbling me off the pride that I built up this kingdom, or a kingdom was built in my soul off of my hurt, or not my hurt, off the hurt. So God said, let's do this clean up. So it does two things. It beautifies the neighborhood, but ultimately it humbles me that I don't have to protect myself from the hurt. I can actually be healed. And if I'm healed in this aspect, pornography doesn't have a shot to come in that way. Now he go from that area. Now we telling ourselves every day that we loving ourselves, And now we're humbling ourselves. What humility likes to do, humility will humble it. Humility will humble himself. Listen to this. Humility will humble himself to open the door for us or for that individual to the door of love. It will humble himself to open up the door to love. So before we can get to love, love is the ultimate soil filler, or the wholeness, the perfection to the soul. Before we can get to love, we have to humble ourselves to humility, so humility can humble himself to us. And it's a transfer that humility personally opens the door. Imagine someone running to the door to open the door for you so you can go through it. This is what humility wants to do for us, to introduce us to love. So, okay, now we're inside love. It's unfamiliar because all we know is pornography, which is based upon the hurt. Right? Okay. Now, love is going to restore us in such a way that pornography never existed. This is how powerful love is. No matter what gave the avenue for pornography to get there, love would come in and cover your soul so well that it won't be a trace that pornography was ever there. We just did 2 steps. Those 2 steps are definite starters. And we'll stop this video with that, with those 2 steps. First is humbling ourselves. First is we're inviting love in, and then we're humbling ourselves. Okay. In other words, no, let me correct that. First, we are given an invitation for God to come into our life. Okay, which is saying, James, I love you. That's the Father talking to you. That's the Heavenly Father, or our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, however you personally are with Him in a relationship. That's Him saying to you, I love you. We take that, now, let you know how deep this is, or how deprived we could be of love. That one time we did it, that one time we went to the mirror and said, I love you, it probably didn't have no effect. But when we say something like that, there should be an overjoying explosion inside of us that is just so uncontainable that it just is an overjoy. You're an overjoy. You become overjoyed. But if we're deprived from love, you won't see anything. It will be like, well, okay, what else? Not that it didn't do anything. That's how empty your well is of love, because you have it. The thief have came and stole so much love from you. He either killed it, he destroyed it, or he stole from it. I mean, it's so. Imagine having a bucket. Let's say you got a nice sized bucket, and one raindrop went into the bucket. Now the bucket is your well, is your soul. The bucket is your soul. One raindrop is inside the bucket. Is it full? Now, how much did it cover inside that bucket? Nowhere near nothing. So this is why we invite God in, so He can fill up the bucket with love. And while we're doing that, the Father can now talk to us spirit to spirit, because before our spirit was listening to someone else, and actually our spirit before was telling us to do things that would destroy us, that would kill us, and that have things to be stolen from us. So it's like walking around with a hole in your pocket. That's what the purpose and intention of anything that's not leading you to love, not to lust, or not a feeling, but where your soul is made whole, that you don't have to do this to have joy. If if I have to watch pornography to get an enjoyment out of my life, that I'm broken. I'm destroyed. Because now I need a substance to sustain me. What love does is self-sustaining itself. Once it gets inside, you don't need to go to another, like get some substance to make you feel joyed. Or make you feel happy or excited about whatever. So let's start with those two. Going to the mirror, saying your first name, saying I love you. This is us allowing God to be introduced to us, and He wants to come inside of our soul. Then the next thing what He would do is take you on assignment. My assignment was going through my neighborhood, cleaning up the trash. That was my assignment. Your assignment may be something different, but it will be in the act of love, not in something that's going to destroy you. It will be in the act of love, which will ultimately humble you. So humility can open the door for you to walk in to love. All right, my people of faith, you are the blessed. Let's be the blessing. Let's keep walking.